The sky above planet Cora turned dark as ships appeared one by one. They weren't here for war, but for the galaxy's most difficult test, the survival trials. Dozens of species had arrived, each sending their best survival teams. The rules were simple: no tech, no weapons, no tools. Each team would be dropped in a different zone of the planet. The only goal? Survive for 7 days. No outside help, no contact. Just instincts. The crowd in orbit cheered as each ship released its capsule. Alien pods shot down like falling stars, but one drop capsule landed faster than the rest. It was Earth's team. Inside the capsule, 3 humans sat in silence. Their suits were basic, more like thick jackets than armor. No buttons. No wires. No weapons. The lead human named Tom smiled as the capsule slowed down. No tech? That's a vacation for us, he said, stretching his fingers. His hands were rough, with scars from tools, blades, and hard labor. Next to him, Lena checked their simple pack. Flint stones. Rope made from plant fibers. Sharp rocks. All within the rules. The capsule hit the ground. Dust flew a few seconds. Later, the humans had already kicked open the hatch. Tom looked at the sun and pointed. We move west, shade by noon, water in the valley. They didn't waste time. In a nearby drop zone, a team of 4 aliens from the Harvick species landed. They were tall and thin, with long limbs and glowing skin. They took over 10 minutes just to open their pod. Scan the area, their leader ordered. There is no scanner, replied one, confused. Remember, no tech. They looked around. Heat, rocks, no food in sight. One Harvick pulled out a paper map, struggling to understand the direction of the wind. Then they saw its smoke rising in the distance. They froze. Is there a volcano nearby? One asked. No, said the leader slowly. That's fire. Back at the human camp, Tom crouched beside a burning pile of dry sticks. He rubbed his hands, satisfied. 20 minutes from drop to fire. Not bad. Lena already had set up a lean-to shelter using thick leaves and branches. She tied the corners using handmade twine. Meanwhile, Ben, the 3rd human, was carving sharp tips into thick wooden sticks. Spears. They hadn't broken any rules. No metal. No modern tools. Just what they found around them. Still, their camp looked like it had been standing for days, not minutes. In another part of the planet, the Zulani team panicked. They tried to collect water from a stream using their hands. It spilled. They had no cups, no pots. Their stomachs growled. One of them collapsed from the heat. The aliens looked toward the smoke again. What if the humans are cheating? One whispered, they must be. No one moves that fast. But they were wrong. Humans didn't cheat. Humans had trained for this. Back at the human zone, Lena finished boiling water in a clay bowl they made from wet dirt and dried with fire. Need traps tonight, she said. Tom nodded. Already setting them. Ben walked back, dragging thick vines. 3 snares ready. 1 pit trap covered with grass. Lena smiled. Aliens are going to hate us. Tom didn't smile. He looked into the woods. They already do. Up in orbit, the Galactic Council watched the early feeds. One of the council members frowned. The humans have a full fire system already? Impossible, said another. The Harvick only just set up shade cloth. The human video showed tools, fire, a shelter, and even smoke signals. One of the humans waved to a camera drone with a grin. They're making chaos, whispered a reptilian counselor. A third leaned forward. No, they're just being human. By nightfall, most alien teams still hadn't made fire. Some sat in the dark, huddled in silence, shivering. Others tried to copy what they had seen from the humans, but without the speed or knowledge. Meanwhile, Tom, Lena, and Ben sat by a warm flame, eating roasted root plants and drinking safe boiled water. They had a system. They had discipline. And they were ready for the game. Tom looked at the stars above and said quietly, "They thought no tech would slow us down. But they forgot we're the reason survival exists." The second day began with a cold mist crawling over the forest floor. Alien teams were scattered across the survival zones, most of them tired, bruised, and confused. Some hadn't eaten. Others hadn't slept. But the human camp looked different. Smoke curled gently into the sky. Their shelters stood strong. Fire still burned in a circle of carefully placed stones. The traps set during the night had caught 2 small creatures, just enough meat to feed the whole team, and skinned the animals with a stone knife he had made himself. His movements were calm, clean, and practiced. "They'll smell the food," Lena said, glancing at the trees. "Let them," Tom replied. "Let them see how far behind they are." A team of lizard-like aliens, known as the Bracti, crawled toward the human camp. Their long tails dragged behind them, and their green scales shimmered faintly under the sunlight. They were hungry and desperate. From behind a thick bush, they watched the humans eat roasted meat, sip hot water, and talk like they were on vacation. One of the Bracti hissed. "How did they build all this so fast?" Another one whispered, "They must have hidden tech in their bodies." But when they zoomed in with their visual enhancers, they found nothing. Just bare hands, stone tools, fire, and woven vines. They weren't cheating. They were simply better. The human camp wasn't fancy, but it was strong. Their shelters had sloped roofs made of bark and large leaves. Water catchers were placed under dripping branches. Small alarm shells tied with vines surrounded the area to warn of movement. It looked like a village. On day 2, and while the aliens struggled to survive, humans were already preparing to expand. In the central zone of the survival planet, the Orcs team made of 4 high-minded scholars, sat shivering under a rock overhang. Their delicate hands were red with cold. They had no tools, no food, and no light. Their leader, Zollner, had once studied 10,000 alien cultures. He now struggled to light dry leaves with friction. He had seen fire in books, but never made it himself. And then, from far away, they saw the smoke again. The same steady column. It had not faded since day 1. "It's the humans," Zollner said. Again. By midday, more alien teams began moving toward the human camp, not to attack, but to understand, to learn. 3 cautious aliens from different species approached with raised hands. They wore leaves and animal skins, their eyes wide. With exhaustion, Tom looked at them calmly and offered a boiled root. "Eat," he said. They accepted it slowly, nervously. Ben stood nearby, sharpening a spearhead with stone. He didn't smile. Lena simply asked, "What did your people do last night?" One of the aliens answered. "We argued over whether to dig a pit or build a tent." The humans exchanged glances. "Next time," Tom said, "do both, then argue." That night, the aliens who had visited stayed just outside the human perimeter. They didn't enter the camp, but they didn't leave either. They were listening, watching, copying. They saw the traps. The clay oven made from dry mud. The storage holes, lined with dried leaves. The ash trail that kept insects away from food. Everything was handmade. Everything had purpose. It was like watching a small tribe of wild gods. Up in orbit, the council watched closely. Reports flowed in human status. Secure, fed, warm, Bracti, 50% sick from raw food, 1 injured by falling branch. Harvick, 1 unconscious from cold, shelter collapsed. Erkin, no fire, no food, leader requesting rule clarification. One council member stared at the human feed and said, "They came with nothing." And still ... a lead. Another added, "They're primitive masters. No tools but centuries of instinct." A third, who had argued against including Earth in the trials, now sat silent. As stars lit the sky, the human team added more fuel to the fire. Their camp was now glowing softly in the dark. Safe. Quiet. Lena sat on a log, writing into the dirt with a stick. "What's that?" Ben asked. "A map," she replied. "For tomorrow. We need more strong vines. There's a valley northeast." Tom nodded. "We'll go early, before others wake." Ben glanced at the tree line. Shadows moved beyond it, aliens watching from the dark. "Think they'll attack?" "No," Tom said. "Not yet. Right now. They're learning." Lena smiled. "Then let's teach them what survival really means." The third morning broke with a deep silence. Birds didn't sing. The wind didn't blow. Even the leaves on the trees stood still. But Tom felt something moving. He opened his eyes without making a sound. He didn't reach for a weapon, because the weapons were already near his hand. 2 sharpened sticks and a stone club sat beside him. A faint crunch. Leaves. Someone stepped wrong. Tom gave a tiny signal with his fingers. Lena and Ben, still lying on their mats, opened their eyes. They had heard it too. Outside the camp, 5 Bracty aliens crouched low in the underbrush. Their green scales blended with the forest. Their eyes were locked on the human campfire. "They sleep," one whispered. "We take food, just food," another replied. "No killing. Only what we need." They had no weapons. Their claws were dull. They were starving. As the lead Bracty crept forward, he didn't see the tripwire made of dry grass. It snapped. Clack. 2 hanging stones slammed together above him, making a sharp crack through the quiet air. In seconds, the humans were on their feet. Ben stepped into view first, holding a spear. "That's far enough," he said. The Bracty froze. One of them held out empty hands. "We only wanted food." Lena walked out next, her eyes cold. "And you thought sneaking in was the way?" "No weapons, no tech," one Bracty said, pointing at the spears. Tom stepped out slowly. "And these?" he asked, holding up a carved stick. "Just wood. Just fire. No tech. Just skill." The council watched from orbit. The feed from the Bracty's body cam played on every screen. "Are they about to fight?" One counselor asked. "They're within rules. No tech. No fatal harm, but this will decide power," another replied. And below, the jungle waited. Tom's eyes didn't blink. He wasn't angry, but he wasn't kind either. He tossed a small sack toward the Bracty. Dried roots, oiled meat. The aliens grabbed the food like children. But Tom's next words froze them in place. "Next time you sneak into our camp, you'll leave with nothing." Lena added, "We don't rule by fear, but we protect what we earn." The Bracty nodded slowly. "We thought humans would be kind." Ben smiled, just a little. "We are, but we're not weak." The aliens left without a fight, but the message had spread. The humans weren't just surviving. They were defending, with rules, with order, with traps that didn't kill but warmed. That afternoon, teams from 2 different species arrived at the edge of the human zone. Not sneaking, not hiding. Just standing. One of them spoke softly. "Can we trade?" Tom walked to the edge. "What do you offer?" They opened sacks filled with gathered mushrooms, berries, and dried bark. Tom nodded. "Bring clean water tomorrow." "You'll get meat." The aliens left with hope in their eyes. As night fell, the humans sat around their fire, then tossed a small branch into the flame. "You think they'll keep coming?" "They will," Lena replied. They've seen what we can build. Tom leaned back against a log. We're not just surviving. We're shaping the game. Miles away, the Harvick team had built a small shelter using rocks. It collapsed when the wind picked up. One broke his arm out in frustration. They tried to copy the human traps they had seen from a distance. It failed. They caught one of their own by mistake. At the center of the survival planet. The organizers gathered. The humans are breaking the balance, one said. They're not cheating, another replied. They're simply better. Should we step in? No, let it play out. The galaxy needs to see this. Back on the ground, an alien team from a frozen moon had watched the whole encounter with the Bracti. They saw the humans give food, but also set lines. Their leader spoke slowly. The humans use kindness as a weapon. Another whispered, maybe that's what makes them dangerous. The fire burned softly again that night. Tom lay down, his eyes on the stars. Lena whispered, tomorrow they might test us again. Tom replied, then we'll teach again. Ben grinned in the dark. Let's make a new trap, just in case they forget who we are. And so, while others slept in fear, the humans built again. Asterisk clouds gathered in the sky by noon. Thick, heavy, angry. Far above. The survival observers noticed the change first. A storm is coming, one council member said. Let's see who built for nature and who prayed it wouldn't come. On the ground, the human team was already moving. Tom stood in the clearing, eyes on the sky. Big storm, fast. Lena began reinforcing their shelters with extra vines and mud. We cover everything. No loose tools. No open food. Ben dug trenches around the camp with his stone shovel. We drain the water before it drowns us. While other alien teams watched the clouds in fear, the humans were preparing fast. Organized, focused. 10 miles away, the Bracti team huddled under a wide tree, hoping it wouldn't fall. Their feet were already sinking into the mud. The Harvick used wide leaves to cover their heads, but they had no shelter. One used his arms to shield a friend from rain. Even those who mocked humans on day one now stared at the rising wind and whispered, how do we survive this? The storm hit like a beast. First came the wind. It howled through the trees, snapping branches and tearing apart weak camps. Then came the rain, thick and endless, turning the ground into a river. Alien. Teens screamed in the dark, their voices lost in the roar of falling trees and crashing thunder. But inside the human camp, it was quiet. Their fire had been moved into a covered trench. Fed with dry wood they stored on day one. Their shelter stood strong, reinforced with extra beams and layered leaves. Water flowed around their camp thanks to the drainage. They didn't fight the storm. They had prepared for it. Lena checked the vines holding the roof. Still tight, Ben smiled. One trap's gone, but we can rebuild. Tom sat by the fire trench, calmly roasting a root. Others won't be so lucky tonight. In the morning, the sun returned, and the world had changed. Alien camps were in ruins. The Harvick lost one member to a falling tree. The Bracti were covered in mud, cold, and too weak to move. Even the proud Urkin scholars had lost all their supplies. Their shelter had blown away in the night. Only one camp still had smoke rising into the sky. Only one had dry food. Only one had strength. Humans. Aliens began arriving without weapons, without pride. They didn't ask for help. They simply sat at the edge of the human camp. Broken. Tom saw them all, quiet, watching. Hungry. He turned to Lena. They need food. Ben whispered, and if we feed them, we lead them. Tom stood near the edge and pointed. You can eat. You can warm yourselves. But listen first. The aliens sat up, tired but curious. You think survival is luck, Tom said. It's not. It's action. You wait for help. We make it. Lena handed a Harvek a bowl of boiled roots. We don't wait, we plan. Ben dropped a stick in the fire. You saw chaos. We built fire in it. One Bracty whispered, Why? Help us? Tom answered with steady eyes. Because that's what humans do. Help, but lead. Up in orbit, the council watched in silence. A new report flashed on screen. Human camp unshaken. 9 alien teens moved toward them. 0 resistance. 0 violence. They built more than shelter, one counselor said. They built order. Another added, they turned survival into leadership. That night, the human camp was no longer just a camp. It was a hub. A center of fire, safety, and food. Aliens helped build new shelters beside the humans. They fetched water. They offered gathered herbs. No one gave commands, but everyone followed Tom's quiet voice, Lena's calm hands, and Ben's watchful eyes. The jungle still whispered. The challenge still continued. But the center of the world had shifted. From fear to fire. From chaos to command. And the galaxy was starting to understand. Humans didn't just adapt. They transformed the wild. Asterisk. The 5th day began with silence, but not peace. The alien camps, once scattered across the planet, had all drifted toward the same center, the human fire. Dozens of alien survivors now slept near the warmth, gathered food, and followed quiet. Signals from Tom, Lena, and Ben, but not all were grateful. Some watched with cold eyes. Some hated what they saw at the far edge of the jungle. The leader of the Zulani team, a tall and silver-skinned alien named Varu, stared at the human camp. From the shadows, they built nothing, and now rule everything, Varu hissed. His teammate, a younger alien, asked, Is that not smart? Varu's lips curled. It's dangerous. They use no tech, no weapons. Yet even our own are following them. The younger alien looked confused. Then why not learn? Because they are not like us, Varu whispered. They're from a death world. They don't survive like prey. They hunt like gods. Inside the camp, Lena was showing a group of aliens how to dry meat using smoke. Tom was drawing a map of the area in the dirt, pointing out hunting paths and water sources. Ben, walking the edge, noticed a pattern. Too many eyes watching us today, he muttered. Some of them aren't hungry. They're angry. Tom didn't look up. It was only a matter of time. That evening, a fight broke out. It started small. Just 2 aliens arguing over whose turn it was to use a cooking bit. But it grew fast. Voices rose. Shoving began. Then fists. Then claws. And in seconds, the entire group was shouting, choosing sides. One Bracty tried to grab a stick from the fire as a weapon, but a stone flew from the dark, knocking it out of his hand. Tom stood at the edge of the fire, another rock in hand. Enough. The fighting froze. Ben stepped forward, spear in hand. Not threatening, just present. Lena's voice followed, calm and clear. You came for fire. For food. For safety. Not for war. Tom stepped closer. We didn't ask to lead, but we built this. If you can't follow order, you don't stay. Silence returned. Heavy. Cold. Some aliens lowered their heads. Others turned and walked away. But no one argued. Hours later, in the jungle's dark edge, Varu met with 3 other aliens who had left the camp in silence. They'll break soon, Varu said. The humans are strong, yes. But if we spread the right lies, fear will do what force cannot. Another asked, What lie? Varu smiled. Say the humans brought forbidden's tech. Say their fire burns too perfect. Say their traps are too clever. He held up a twisted vine trap piece. Say they cheat. Up in orbit, the council reviewed new reports. A message from the Zulani was flagged. Human team may be using hidden tech. Fire too consistent. Traps too advanced. Recommend inspection. Council member Dravik narrowed his eyes. It begins. Another counselor shook her head. This is fear, not evidence. The humans follow rules, but rules make them dangerous. Dravik replied, still, we will watch. The next morning, council probes flew low over the human camp. The humans noticed. Ben pointed up. They're scanning us. Tom nodded. Let them. Lena didn't stop cooking. They'll find nothing. Tom called out to the gathered aliens. We've been accused, but you've lived with us. You've seen our work. If we cheated, wouldn't the storm have washed us out too? No one spoke. Then a young alien stepped forward. You saved my sister. We believe you. Another shouted, you fed us when our team left us to die. One by one, voices rose not in anger, but in defense. Didn't cheat, they prepared. They made tools from stone, not steel. They earned every bit of this. Back in the shadows, Varu clenched his jaw. They're winning hearts. Again. Tom stood still, but his voice was strong. This isn't about who's first. This is about who rises. The jungle gives nothing, and we've taken nothing but. Used everything. He looked up at the scanning drone. So scan us, judge us, but know this, we don't need your tech. We are the tech, and that night, for the first time, the council probe left early, not because it found anything, but because it didn't need to. Asterisk, the final sunrise lit the sky in gold. The trial was almost over. One more day. Then the ships would return above the clouds. Orbiting stations buzzed with reports. Judges reviewed footage. Councils debated but on the ground, there was no debate anymore. The jungle had chosen its kings, and they had no crowns. Only fire, stone, and the will to build in the human camp. The atmosphere was calm. Fires burned low. Food simmered gently. Aliens moved about with purpose. Not servants, not slaves, just followers. Tom sat near the fire, sharpening a rock blade. Ben was weaving a rope from dried plant fibers. Lena taught a young Bracti how to tie knots. It wasn't just a camp anymore. It was a school, a shelter, a symbol. From the trees, the Zulani leader Varu approached again, but this time his hands were empty. He walked slowly, his silver skin dull in the light. I accused you, he said quietly, and failed. Tom looked up, silent. Varu continued, you didn't bring weapons, but you broke us anyway. Lena stood beside Tom. Her voice was calm. We broke nothing. We showed what could be built. Ben added, you brought fear. We brought fire. From above, a signal sounded. The countdown had begun. 6 hours until extraction. But before the trial could end, the council wanted one last test. They sent a message to all remaining teams. Build one thing that shows your survival skills. One symbol of your progress. We will decide who truly thrived. Panic spread among alien groups. Some tried to rebuild broken shelters. Others carved strange symbols into the dirt. One team painted rocks. But in the human camp, Tom already knew what to do. We show them us, he said. Ben nodded. A working village. No tricks, just truth. They divided quickly. Lena organized the builders. Ben checked the traps and fences. Tom worked with the aliens to show what each group had learned. By the third hour, the camp became a living machine. Smoke towers, cooking pits, clean water collectors, defensive traps, clay ovens, animal pens. Even the nearby alien camps stopped building. They just stared, because nothing they made could compare. When the council ship finally landed, its crew expected to see chaos. Instead, they walked into a small, working settlement. Aliens from 5 different species lived side, dash by dash, side dot, no one shouted dot, no one fought dot, and in the middle, a human stood covered in dirt, smiling slightly. Tom stepped forward and said, "Welcome to Day 6. The lead judge, a tall being with shimmering robes, walked slowly through the camp. He saw the tools, the shelters, the fire trenches, the woven nets. He saw unity. He saw leadership, and he saw no tech. Not even a spark of cheating. Only skill. Only. Survival. In orbit. The council voted. The decision was unanimous. For the first time in the survival trial's history. The trial would end early. There was no point in waiting. The message was already clear. The final announcement echoed across every screen in orbit. Human team declared unbeatable. Victory not by power, but by preparation, unity, and primal skill. Other teams may return, but all will remember who lit the first fire. As the ships prepared for lift, many aliens turned back to the humans. "Will you teach us more?" one asked. "Not now," Tom said with a smile, "but maybe one day." Lena handed the Brakti a coil of vine rope. "Take what you've learned. Build your own fire," Ben added. "And remember, no tech doesn't mean no hope." As the human capsule rose into the sky, the jungle below grew silent again, but smoke still curled from the center. A fire had been started there, and it would never go out. Asterisk.